Hello and welcome to this short presentation from the SCF Group. As you know, April's budget introduced sweeping changes with perhaps a particular focus against non-domiciles. Today's tax planners have demanded to use ever increasingly sophisticated tools to best service those clients. It is here the SCF Group, as one of Europe's leading EU-licensed independent tax planning firms, are uniquely positioned to best help those clients. For your benefit, we have a short presentation, originally part of the LNTV, the College of Law DVD, to which our CEO, Mr. Barry Spencer-Higgins, also a barrister, was a key contributor. I and my colleagues look forward to being of assistance in the near future.
An historical anomaly or an integral part of the UK's appeal to foreign investors. Whatever your view on the tax treatment of non-doms, planning their financial affairs has now become a lot more complicated.
We welcome the contribution made by people born outside the United Kingdom who choose to come and work here. They are an important and central contributor to our economy's growth and prosperity. They pay their taxes on their earnings here. They also pay tax on the money they bring into this country from abroad. But for those non-domiciled individuals or families who've chosen to make Britain their home, I believe that it is right and fair that they should, after 7 years, pay a reasonable charge to maintain the right to be taxed differently from other UK residents.
For over 200 years now, it's been possible for non-doms to live and work in the UK and only pay tax on money they earn or remit here. Income and gains held elsewhere have been sheltered from the UK tax system under rules designed to encourage foreign investment and attract business talent, much of which is concentrated here in the heart of London's financial district. The contribution non-doms make to our economic success is well documented, but so too is the pressure they place on our already overstretched resources, which is why from the 6th of April 2008, those who choose to remain here in the long term are being asked to pay more. At the heart of the government's tax reforms for non-doms is the introduction of a £30,000 charge. This applies to anyone who's been resident in the UK for 7 out of the last 9 tax years and who wants to continue being taxed on a remittance basis. The introduction of the charge has led to a rewriting of the rules that have historically governed the taxation of non-doms, and as a consequence, a number of key changes have been made. Long-term resident non-doms liable to pay the charge have got to decide whether it's worth them doing so, or whether they should elect to be taxed on the arising basis instead.
I would say that, what they have, they've got 2 potential ways forward. They can pay a new £30,000 levy, which effectively allows them to be taxed in a similar, though not identical way, to the way they were historically taxed. So in other words, they pay £30,000 each year, and effectively they will still pay only tax with the £30,000 on the remittances they bring back into the United Kingdom. Or if you're not going to pay the £30,000 levy, then prima facie you're going to be taxed in a very similar, though not identical way, to the domiciled and resident populace of the United Kingdom.
Unfortunately, the tax treatment of offshore companies isn't as favourable. They have no option to rebase unless they underlie an offshore trust. To close the previous loophole that used to allow chargeable gains from an offshore company to be taken tax-free, UK participators will now be taxed on the gains accruing, irrespective of their domicile. And capital gains tax on UK-based assets will be fully taxable whether or not the £30,000 charge has been paid. This makes 2-tier structures an attractive option, along with alternative forms of offshore vehicle that might have been sidelined in the past, such as private interest foundations.
A private interest foundation is actually a very interesting concept when employed in the United Kingdom. Effectively, you can deem it to be a civil law jurisdiction's equivalent to a trust, but most interestingly, under case law in this country, right to the level of the House of Lords, it's deemed to be the equivalent of a company. Now that actually affords great benefits to a tax planner because we have a structure which can be self-owning. So that means that basically all the provisions, the TCGA provisions which have now been expanded, will not apply to a private interest foundation. So that means that basically it allows resident non-domiciled people to invest back in the United Kingdom and legally, at least for the time being, to avoid taxation on the basis of remittances being purported to exist to them, because they are not the beneficial owner, and that is effectively what the legislation is stating. If you're the beneficial owner, directly or indirectly, there will be a tax event.
Care needs to be taken, though, in selecting the country in which a private interest foundation is established.
Historically, I would say that Switzerland or Liechtenstein are probably the more developed jurisdictions because they have very well-trained lawyers there and they have suitable indemnity insurance. There are other possibilities, such as Panama, but what I would say about jurisdictions such as Panama is that their legislation is a little bit underdeveloped, and if you do go down that route, you need to go to effectively properly trained tax planners who can set up the regulations in a way that will really give you the tax advantages you want.
So with that caveat, non-doms who might have previously considered using an offshore trust, for example, but who realise that income from that trust will be attributed to them unless they pay the £30,000 charge, might now choose to purchase a bond instead. They can let the income accumulate, and then, even when they're ready to leave the UK, they can unwind the bond, extract the income from it, and not be worried about any UK taxation liability, provided they then remain resident outside of the UK. But where should someone looking to relocate go?
It's actually very interesting. I think many people would expect me to turn around and say, oh, well, places like Monaco, obviously there's no income tax. It's, it's associated with a lot of very wealthy people. Some people might mention places such as Gibraltar, because you can actually effectively control your taxation liability to around $20,000 a year, no matter what your income or assets are. But to be honest with you, from a tax planner's point of view, that is not the case. Because when you tax plan, you have to look at things such as double taxation treaties. Gibraltar and Monaco have, well, in the case of Gibraltar, only one limited tax treaty with the United Kingdom. In the case of Monaco, obviously with France. What I would suggest to our clients is to look at alternative jurisdictions which are primarily part of the European Union, if they're going to be trading in the EU, that can benefit from VAT benefits if they've got a company, that there is a financial centre there as well. And that would lead me to jurisdictions probably like the Republic of Ireland, or perhaps Switzerland, or perhaps even Luxembourg. We've created a system where we've opened up a hornet's nest for them. We don't know what the budget will be next year. Alistair Darling has apparently given a guarantee that he's going to do nothing else in this Parliament or the next Parliament. Perhaps that's because he won't be the Chancellor of the Exchequer, but we do not know. And I think if you were a non-domiciled person who was very wealthy, you would certainly consider leaving the United Kingdom, perhaps not immediately, but certainly in a 5 to 10 year period. In 25 years, decisions like this could be seen to have been seminal in affecting the UK's status as a financial centre, definitely to the benefit of the IFSC in Dublin, to Luxembourg, but most importantly to Frankfurt. Do we really want to do this?